Well, that right there is now home for the next week or so. This trip is a reconnaissance mission. I've picked out a few places on the map that I want to go and explore in the hopes of finding a few old scrapes from the 2020 Roar to hunt this coming Roar in 2021. This is the second reconnaissance mission for the year. I had a lot more time to set up my tent today than last time around. I was driving up the driveway with big black clouds staring me in the face and thunderstorms forecast for that afternoon. I arrived at camp to the sound of thunder and the race was on to get camp set up before the rain fell, which I managed to do, just. Nato definitely got set up on time. It's gonna pave down. After camp was set up ready for the weather to arrive, I was able to sit back and watch a lightning show, which was insanely cool. It's right on top of me now, and it's hailing at Christmas time. That's a sponsor shot if ever I've seen one. Pity they don't sponsor me. The next few days were spent on public land in search of a new Spot X. I found some awesome areas to hunt and seen a fair bit of fresh shine, which was very cool. I spotted a few deer out on a piece of private land which I don't have permission to hunt on, but the bush that surrounds that open bit is all public. I found two really good looking spots a few hundred meters back into the bush with buck sign from Roars past. I'm super keen to get back in there and climb some trees and test hunt those spots. By test hunting I mean to see what the wind does and to see what kind of shots I've got. I might have to clear a few shooting lanes and stuff. I also run into some piglets while I was out there. I was just watching them do their thing, rooting around looking for food, thinking how cute they were. Then remembering the owners of the property and the people managing the public land don't want the pigs. And I'm supposed to eradicate them where I can. And if I'm honest, I was feeling a little bit mean at the thought of killing a piglet until I thought about adding diced piglet to my boring rice risotto that night. Then somehow I didn't feel bad at all. It tasted so good. And in future I won't be walking past any more piglets. I went back into the same area a few days later to try and find some bigger pigs and again came across some piglets. But further along the track I could hear what I was sure were bigger pigs. So I left the piglets and headed down the track further. If I wasn't so focused on trying to film the pigs before I shot one, I reckon I would have shot a pig that walked across the track right in front of me. I got to full draw twice after that though, and I maybe could have snapped a shot off, but in the past bad things have happened when I've snapped shots off. So they lived to see another day. I seen a few more deer over the time I was here. Nothing I would have had a shot at considering the does have fawns and the bucks have no antlers this time of year. Good spot though. That hail wasn't the only rain that I seen while I was here. It absolutely bucketed down for pretty much a whole day. But I had a heap of editing to do for the lateral line, so it was all good. Coffee time! I'm super pumped to go back into that area this time round and try and find me a decent pig to shoot, because that pig last time round tasted so good. But for the rest of today, I'm just going to hang around camp, get camp fully set up, watch the sun go down, and I will get up tomorrow, get organised and get out the back. I want to climb one of those trees first thing tomorrow morning, just sit up the tree for an hour or two, test the wind, see what shooting lanes I've got, and see if those spots are going to be any good for saddle hunting. This is the first spot that I like the look of, but this spot is only going to work in a northerly. The two spots that I'm banking on further back in the bush are wicked on anything from a southerly, southwest, west, northwest, sort of that area, and that's our dominant wind, right? So, but having a spot that's going to be good in a northerly is a good thing too. Straight out here about maybe 100 meters is where I filmed those deer in that real scrubby looking bit. That right there, that whole area there is a big scrape. I reckon in the raw, that whole area there will be tagged up. There's multiple trees around the outside of it being smashed with antlers. There's a trail that runs all the way along down here to this scrape, and then all the way along down here parallel with the bush edge that's running along this way as well. So I reckon it's a really good spot, but again I need the wind coming this way, and that is a northerly. Today I've got a southwester and it's just swirling everywhere. I left my camera, my trail camera, on the tree down there, and I've got deer on my trail camera here every single day since I left it, and it was 12 days ago. There were deer right up sniffing the camera and everything. There was a nice spiker, seen a fawn, and just multiple deer going through at multiple parts of the day, but I don't think I'll see them today because the wind's just swirling all over the place. But not only did I get deer all over the camera, but I also got some pigs, and they were here yesterday, and there's a bit of fresh rooting down in behind the trees here, so hopefully I can find them. I'm going to hang out here for a little while anyway and see what happens. This spot here is pretty much the best of what I found, I reckon. All the pungas here are completely rubbed up. You can see that one right in front of me is real skinny. Then it goes up to thick because bucks and deer have been rubbing themselves on that punga for eons. Kind of like deer Facebook. Bit of mud on there from a pig too. And right there, centre screen right now in that bit of sun, is what I reckon is a big rut hole. And the other day when I was here, I was standing here milling around trying to pick a tree, and a boar came running up that trail. I didn't really get time to do anything. He just stopped about 5 meters away, ran off down there, and I managed to get a little video of him about, I don't know, 4 or 5 frames. But that was it. But it looked to be a pretty good boar. Would have been the biggest pig that I've ever shot, that's for sure. My plan is to climb this tree here, which will give me shots all along this ridge, but there's a lot of crap between that tree and here, so I'm not sure if it's going to work. So I'm going to find out. Check this out for a spot. This is awesome. I just cut all that steeplejack down that was up there. And this is the big trail that boar walked up. Comes right through, that's 13 meters there. Right to that big hole. That's the big hole, well, what I think is a big hole from a buck. That trail goes right through and then carries on up the hill. And then there's another big trail that runs through down, right down along past me here. If a big buck comes walking up that trail, right to his hole, he'll stop here, me, and turn around and look this way. And I'll be sitting in the tree. Gonna take the long way back to camp and see if I can't find one of these pigs. Rice risotto with a little bit of red onion, spiced up with some venison. Eating dinner while sitting out in the wilderness and watching the sun go down is pretty damn cool if you ask Nato. What an awesome day. I've got 2 more trees fully rigged ready for the roar. Tomorrow, same thing. I'm going out to rig another tree in the morning, and then for the rest of tomorrow, it is all about those pigs. I'm going to hunt down those pigs. There was fresh sign everywhere. They are there somewhere. They were on my camera yesterday evening, so I'm in there. I'm going to get one. I can feel it. I have only just left camp after sleeping in, drinking way too much coffee and just enjoying being out in the open. But I did start editing this video that you're watching, so I suppose that's something, right? Because of my sleep in, all I'm going to do today is race into this tree that I want to set up, climb the tree, have a look, make sure it's all good, get out of there and get back to camp. This is my next spot. And this tree right here is the tree that I'm going to climb. And just down there is where I reckon the scrapes are. I reckon that right there is a scrape. Trail comes from up there down through here. That right there I reckon's another big scrape. And then there's an insanely good trail that drops down this ridge behind this little spot. Straight down that ridge, and that trail leads right to the other spot that I've got rigged. I'm finally sorted. The first tree that I climbed that I had picked out on the other side of the scrape was all wrong. When I got up in that tree I couldn't even see the scrape. And when I used my GPS, it was southwest. The scrape was directly southwest from my tree. So yeah, it was all wrong. Spent the next half an hour deliberating over what tree to go on. Finally picked this tree here. That's the pad down there that you can see. The other tree was up behind it, 17 meters to the main pad. There's like 2 or 3 little holes along there. But I reckon that one there, well, that one there is my shot. I can't see the other 2 from here. I've just climbed up like 3 different trees here and cut down a whole bunch of supplejack. One of those trees was probably going to end up dead. There was that much supplejack in it. It's taken half the day. But stupid happy with this spot. This is the spot. It's a lot higher up on the hill, which to me means that the wind is going to be a lot more consistent. And when you are stationary hunting, ambush hunting, tree stand hunting, if you don't have the wind, you got nothing. This spot is the ticket. I got my little platform on the opposite side of the tree to where I think the deer is going to come from. That's the little pad there. That's the little scrape that I made. Can't really fire a shot through here though, but I can stand here fully comfortable in my tree, be standing up dead straight, or I can be leant back in the saddle. But then when I look through there and I see the deer, I can swing around the tree and I got a shot at him straight down through there. This is going to be epic. I splashed out and invested in another trail cam. See what's walking down that trail? I don't like putting the cameras right down on the scrapes because a number of times I've seen animals react to the click when it starts filming and takes a photo, so I don't want to be scaring any big bucks off. And I've got it real close to my tree. That's my tree there. That's where I'm going to sit, right there, so they don't put even ground set around the area as well. Set it and we're off home. Look what I just about stepped on. Those things are horrible. We're bringing a little bottle of petrol back here to fix that. They're always got to be right behind you. What is up with that? Good morning time. Today's mission is a real simple one. I don't have any tree gear with me. I'm not going near any of those spots that I rigged. I just have my bow, a knife, and I'm headed into that area where those pigs are, well, where I think those pigs are. And I also want to explore a little spot just past where I've been seeing all that pig sign and those pigs. There's a little high point on the map. That little high point could very well be a big buck haunt. So the plan is to mission out there, have a good sniff around in that area. I hope the spot is epic. It is an insanely tight, thick, shitty way that I've picked to get there. Standing up for the first time in half an hour. I've been on my ass sliding down the hill for the last half an hour. The things we do. I just got to where I'm sitting right now and I was like, what's that noise? Look over there and there's a goat standing there, and I've never ever seen a goat in here before, not once. About 2 seconds after that I was like, holy shit, look at the size of that billy goat. Big horns. So of course Nato was going to get him. The goats are very unwelcome in here, just like the pigs. And as far as I knew, there weren't any goats in here, but that was a big mob of goats. Anyway, long story short, I had very, very small and, the shooting lanes that I had weren't very good. Where the billy goat stopped, I couldn't see his vitals, and I snapped a shot off at him when he walked into a gap. Stupid Nato. But it was like a 5-meter shot, and I was like, oh, he's done. I just had a look. I can see the arrow sticking out of the ground where I thought his feet would be, so I've shot right underneath him. I can still hear them moving around in the bush down here, so I'm hoping I can get another shot. But right now, Nato's feeling like a muppet. How do you miss a goat at 5 meters? Completely miss it. I was shaking like a leaf though. I can still hear them down there. So I'm just going to give it a little bit longer, have something to eat, go get my arrow, and then see if I can't sneak up on that big billy and have another shot at him. I just followed goat marks all the way down that ridge and ended up back on the dock track, and it was an easy walk, so now I have a better way to get up to that high point if I want to go back. I'm still kicking myself over missing that big billy goat. But when I think back, I snapped a shot. I should never do that. I've tried to stop doing it, but I just keep doing it. I only had that one little gap to shoot, and I snapped the shot. But again, when I think back at the shot, I can't even tell you where the pin was when I let the arrow fly. The goat was in the sight ring, and that's about all I can tell you. It was so close, it's like, oh, I don't need to aim it so close. It's not hard to make a good bow shot, but it's really easy to make a bad one. What a muppet. Now I'm looking at this going, did goats make it or did deer make it? There was actually a tree when I first started climbing that ridge back there onto that high point that looked like it had fresh rubbing, scraping on it, antler something, and it didn't make any sense because the bucks are in velvet at the moment. Now it makes perfect sense. It was a goat. After my stuff up yesterday on that goat, I was beaten up on myself pretty bad, and I just pretty much got my GPS, pointed myself in the direction of the nearest place where I had familiar ground and beelined it back to camp. Today, I am going to go and do a big loop around on the private part of this property that my mate is kind enough to let me camp on. I have never got a deer out on the public land, but I've taken like 12 or 13 off his little private piece. It isn't a very big piece of property. It is horribly thick in places, but I know the place like the back of my hand. I know what ridges are good and what wind, and I know what trails I can get down quietly and what trails I can't. I'm going to stop at a few places, sit down and have a muesli bar or two. There's a number of little clearings down there which the deer kind of sit around the outside of. It's super hard to get close to them, but that's worth a look. Quite a few creek crossings to go check out. There isn't a lot of deer in there, which is a good thing, of course. You don't want deer numbers to be too crazy, otherwise the bush suffers. but it's always worth a walk. I got my first deer in this piece of private property. So yeah, the rest of today is about sneaking around on the private part of this property and trying to get an arrow loose at either a yearling or a lopsided buck. Holy shit balls. There's a dead buck up there. Oh, gutted. That has been there for a long time. I can't believe I've never seen it. It's just off my trail. I always walk that trail. There was a bone on the trail right there, which if I'm honest, I think I've seen that too. I don't know why I'd never. Crazy. I don't think he was that old. Believe it or not, I actually got up early this morning. Been mucking around at camp for half the morning, shooting my bow and whatnot, but I am once again on the march out the back. The other day when I ballsed up that goat, and yes, I'm over it. I'll learn from it, try and learn from it, and move on. But yeah, the other day when I ballsed up that goat, on the way back home that day, I got caught up in a heap of thick crap and pretty much just got my GPS, pointed myself in the right direction, and then just started beelining it to the nearest place that was familiar, that I'd been before, to get back to camp. But in the process, I stumbled across an insane trail, and when I followed that trail, I reckon it's the same trail the deer in the paddock that I filmed a couple of weeks ago used to get out into the scrubby paddock, and then obviously from that scrubby paddock back into the bush. So I reckon that spot could be a real good meat spot, you know. I've got my buck spots. I don't want to say that spot isn't a buck spot, because there's nothing stopping a buck walking past there, but it isn't a spot that I'd go and target a buck. It's a spot that I'd go to get meat. How does that happen? I am crashing up the track at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I got sweat pissing off me. And then I'm like, oh, I spooked something. Stopped and stood there. And I was like, no, they're getting closer. See a bit of black. And then a bit more black. And if I'm honest, I drew my bow way too early. By the time I had a pig and a clear shot to the pig, I just started to get the shakes. And I knew that if I didn't take a shot pretty quick, then I wasn't going to be able to take a shot. I wouldn't normally take a front-on shot like that at anything, but I've just upped my arrow weight after watching the Ranch Fairy talk about adult arrows and stuff. And that's exactly why I did it, so that those shots were shots that I could take ethically. And I think I made a good shot. Oh, that doesn't look good. Crazy thing to find while you're looking for a pig. I did it, pig down. The first shot wasn't a very good one. Nato needs another kick in the ass. But I was real lucky that he didn't go very far, and I was able to sneak up on it and get another shot. It was not in a good way. It wouldn't have been long before it was dead, but never in that opportunity, in that situation, am I not going to put a second arrow into an animal that is wounded. So second arrow got deployed and it just fell over pretty much on the spot. It was pretty close to done. Clean pass through Ranch Fairy style. Much better blood trail this one. That's how it's done. Well, there she is, the little sow, the perfect animal to be taken home to eat. You don't want to be eating those big smelly balls, right? It's only made it like maybe 80 meters, but all straight downhill. It's all good. First big game animal for 2021 is a pig, and I don't shoot very many pigs, and this will be the first pig that I've ever taken, well, except for that piglet, on public land, so a few boxes have been ticked. It's time to be a butcher, and I got to carry this pig and all my tree hunting gear back to camp, and then take the pig to the owner of the property. He said if I got a pig, he would love some pork, so I made him a deal where we'd go halves. Again, wild pork is on my fork. Good morning time. Today is the last day of Operation Reconnaissance Mission. I didn't get to hunt yesterday. There was a bit of a water crisis on the farm. I ended up helping the farmer sort out some water. We had to drop down into this massive, how do you explain it? It was just a creek that was surrounded by cliffs basically, and when the water gets low, and the water table's low at the moment, they draw some extra water out of this creek. But this creek has even gone dry, and we had to move the pump to the only place left in the creek where there was water. There's still water flowing down the creek, but it's flowing underground. Ended up saving an eel that was stuck in a rock pool. There was actually two, but Nato could only catch one of them. Stuck it in a sack and then took it up to where we were putting the pump in the water and let it loose. This little rock pool, I guess you could call it, was full of eels. They were swimming around in the middle of the day, and there was quite a few freshwater crayfish in the water as well. It was such a cool spot. I just want to go back there and just chill out. And it is super cool to be able to help the people out here, because I absolutely love coming to this property, and long may it continue. So this morning's mission is to complete the mission I started the other morning before that pig so awesomely interrupted me. I'm going to go out, put a snail trail on my GPS so that I can use that to get to this new spot in the dark, the meat spot. Going to quickly go up a little tree there. I'm only getting like 2 meters off the ground, swing out of that, make sure everything's cool. And then from there, I'm going back to both of the spots that I've already set up for my tree stand, or my tree saddle. And I'm going to check both of those trail cameras. Desperately hoping that I've already got a huge velvet buck on one of those trail cameras, or any deer on my trail cameras would be good, to be fair. And maybe even that big boar, if that big boar's still walking around out there, hopefully I've got him on my trail camera as well. What a spot. This spot is epic. I was here the other day and there was a heap of fresh sign, and there's a heap of fresh sign since then and now. This trail is getting hammered. When I was here the other day, there was what I thought was a scrape down there, a scrape in January, which I haven't seen a scrape in January, but in saying that, I haven't done a lot of hunting in January, so thinking that it might have been a scrape, I pissed in it, knowing that I was going to come back here in a few days later, and if it was a scrape, then whatever made that scrape was going to scrape my piss out, and it has. There's a fresh scrape since I was here only like 3 days ago. deer all over my camera. Mobs of deer. There was like, I don't know, 6 or 8 deer running around, including a huge velvet buck. I set my camera up to try and catch something coming in and out of that scrape area on this trail. And I accidentally, or whatever you call it, there's a trail that runs right through here. A big group of bucks, I'm guessing including a big velvet buck that have used that trail a number of times. The velvet bucks run down here once into this area. I don't like the idea of being so close to the scrapes. The more I think about it, the more I think it's dumb. I'd rather be on the trails that are leading into a scrape. I'm going to set up a tree on this ridge right behind me so I can shoot this trail and this other trail that's coming along here. That way, I just think I'm going to have more chance. There's a big velvet buck rocking around here. Holy shit. Nato's on form. No wonder there's a heap of fresh sign in here. There's a big mob of deer just running rampant in here. I just rigged another tree after seeing all those deer on my game camera. Further away from the scrape. Further, what would that be? Downwind from the scrape in a westerly. It's blowing west today, but the wind's coming south, so for whatever reason, the wind's channeling up this valley behind me, which is all good. I got 2 trees now in this one spot. I can't make up my mind, but that's what this whole couple of weeks was about test hunting, mucking around, going up and down different trees, seeing what I got. Laying a heap of ground scent now rather than doing it in the raw and ballsing it all up. I've been laying awake, sleepless in the tent the last few nights, thinking about all different scenarios with hunting. And one of the scenarios that I cannot get out of my little brain is the buck sitting on his scrape when I'm sneaking in and trying to get into a tree in the dark. The tree that I got set up down there is 13 meters from a scrape. There is no way I'm getting up that tree if the buck is sitting on the ground without spooking him. This tree is about maybe 70 meters on the southwest side of the scrape. In my mind, if I was a big buck, there's no way I'd go into my scrape unless I was going into it from downwind. So I reckon in a southwest wind, which is the wind we've got today, it's perfect for that scrape. That buck is going to use this trail to scent check that pad. And when he does, that'll be all I need. But in my mind, this tree is higher, more likely to have the wind consistent, and I got shots for miles all around me. I got a 25 metre shot straight down there. That other tree, I got one 13 metre shot. So I got 2 trees rigged at this spot now. I'm gonna get down, head up to the other spot, check the trail camera there, probably have another panic attack and set up 3 more trees, but it's all good, I'm having fun. That's where my trail camera was. I've now got it on the punga, just in there, and there's the tree that I just climbed. It's 25 metres from here to there. I'm so much happier with that tree than the one I was in. My phone went flat, so I couldn't film anything else. Gapped it back to camp because it was raining. It stopped, but it's going to rain again because I can hear some thunder. Just had a quick look at those videos. There is a group of 9 bucks running around out there at that first spot. There's also a few deer at the second spot, spikers, a few does and stuff, but that first spot, the spot that I call Rub Ridge, looks like the place to be. And as soon as those antlers are hard on those bucks, then arrows are going to fly. But for now, I need to go and shoot at some live targets because Nato's shooting accuracy at a live target. My target shooting's good. I can shoot a target all day, every day, but shooting at a live animal is a whole nother ball game. So yeah, for the next couple of weeks or for the next little while until the antlers go hard, I'm going to go chase some goats around and shoot at some live targets and just get my head in the game. I need to be able to be fully in panic mode but still have the conscious thought to make a good shot rather than just panicking and snapping shots and not aiming and making all the mistakes that I've made over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, a goat video to come.